Сайн байцгаана уу хүн төлөгчтэй. Өнөөдөр манай дефакто нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор бүгд найрамдах Солонгос улсаас Монгол улсад суугаа онц бөгөөд бүрэн ирэхэд Элчин Сайд ноён уу оролцож байна. Good evening.
Good evening.
You have been already 2 years in Mongolia, right?
1 year and 3 months exactly.
Okay. And how do you find so far your job as ambassador?
No, actually, as I told you, I have been here in Mongolia for 1 year and 3 months, and I found that my job in here was very attractive and interesting, because in here Korean ambassador was highly regarded by the Mongolian government and Mongolian people. In that sense, I really appreciate the Mongolian government and the Mongolian people.
I remember after 1990, your country was the closest democracy to Mongolia, market economy. That time, of course, Korea now too is a shining star of Asian tigers. And for the last 25 years, the relations, economic, political, and just people relations have gone so much that I think many Mongolians cannot imagine their life now without Korea. And you said in one interview that we have over 30,000 Mongolians living in Korea, and some 300,000 Mongolians traveling to Korea. Any change in the statistics? What is new now in that sense, that it shows the relations between two countries are booming?
You have the correct statistics regarding the Mongolian people living in Korea, and I like to add one more statistics is that the Mongolian people who have lived in Korea for education or for the job, maybe for more than 1 year, and the return to Mongolia, the number of the Mongolian people is 300,000, almost 10% of the total population. This is very important statistics to us. These people are very important asset for the bridging the Korea and Mongolia. So our government and our embassy is very focused on how to improve the bilateral relationship between Korea and Mongolia.
So people who stayed in Korea more than 1 year and came back are more than 300,000.
Yes.
Very substantial amount.
I myself was very surprised to hear those numbers of the Mongolian people returning to Mongolia after living in Korea.
Now, how many total Mongolians live? You said 30,000, but how many of them are these legal workers?
At this time, we have no specific information about the legal or illegal, but one factor, one thing we are concerned about the recent trend. From last year, our embassy has implemented the so-called more friendly, the visa friendly policy to the Mongolian people. The number of the Mongolian people who received the visa has been increased substantially. For example, only last year, over 80,000 Mongolian people visit to Korea.
80.
Yeah, 80,000. And we received the information from our home government that the number of the illegal, the resident, Mongolian illegal resident was increased. This is very important to us because our embassy has a plan to amplify that the so-called that the simplified the measures for the visa issuance. But this issue of the illegal resident is kind of the blocking stone for our embassy to
make easier the
yes,
issue.
yes.
Okay. Well, we don't know clear how many of them are legal or illegal. But, there is an agreement between governments, or who are making this agreement that Mongolian workers, labor goes to Korea, and there is a certain quota. What is this about? Please tell us.
No, our government has also implemented the legal, the employment system, and that our government increased the quota for the Mongolian people.
Okay.
For example, last year the number was at the 1,700. But this year, the quota for this year, the number is 2,800. So the difference is 1,100. This means that we put more importance to the Mongolian people.
So within this year, 2016, Korea is ready to receive 2,800 Mongolian workers.
Yes.
In what kind of requirements for that? What kind of fields, skills you need?
First, they have the certificate of the Korean language.
Okay, language.
Yes, and then we have some kind of the list of a pool. Then the Mongolian people register their name to the website. Then the Korean companies, Korean employers can choose that the Mongolian the people
They
from
specify their names, gender,
yes,
and also
maybe
name,
specialty.
gender, professional skills,
yes,
right?
yes.
And is it true that Korean employees more tend to not too much hire Mongolians?
Mongolian peoples are very popular to be employed in Korea.
Okay.
Because Mongolian peoples are very kind and they're frank and very eager to work. So this is a very good factor for the Korean companies or Korean employer to recruit the people.
Okay.
So that is why our government increased the quota.
How long this one person under this quota, 2,800 this year, how long one can work there?
Legally 3 years.
3
and
years, okay.
Can be extended 2 times or 3 times if the Korean employers and Mongolian people agreed for the contract.
So that this working, we call it also stage, it's working period, is not blocked out while they are in Korea, because it's important statistics, data for Mongolians to have a retirement plan afterwards.
Yes.
All right. So we talked about the Mongolians going to work there, but there are many Mongolians who are coming for tourism and Koreans coming for tourism to Mongolia.
Yes.
Can you share some statistics?
Yes. According to the statistics, about 50,000 Korean people visit to Mongolia. But this is the statistics provided by the Korean government. But I think that there can be a difference between we Korean government the collected information for the people, for the Korean people, for the destination. What I mean is that if the Korean people left Korea to China, for China, then we collected the information that the Korean people visiting China. But
I see.
at this time, that the more Korean people visit to Mongolia, not directly from Seoul to Ulaanbaatar,
I see.
but from Seoul to Beijing
And then
and the Ulaanbaatar because of the shortage of the seats of the airplane.
Okay.
So in that sense, that the some Korean people were not collected
Okay.
as the
As
statistics.
a reality, it could be way bigger than
Yes.
50,000. But
Yes.
officially, those who had declared at the customs or at the border
Yes.
before their departure,
Yes,
they say, I go for Mongolia,
Yes.
50,000.
yes,
Now, you see, say about 50,000 people or
Mhm.
more coming to Mongolia
Yes.
from Korea,
Mhm.
and say 80,000 or 300,000 or
Maybe
even
more.
more Mongolians
Yes.
go there. So we now almost 2 flights every day, and still we have problem with seats.
Yes.
And how do you see the issues we face in airline cooperation, airline relations between two countries, this traffic?
Yes, I think that the human exchange is very important to develop the relation bilaterally. There was why that we celebrated the first flight of the Air Busan last Friday. Two flights per week, direct flight between Busan, the second largest city in Korea, and Ulaanbaatar. And
2 flights a week.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And as just mentioned, that we have the regular air flight between Seoul and Ulaanbaatar. Normally 6 times per week, but 9 times per week during the high season. But we think that this is not enough to accommodate the more and more Korean people, more and more Mongolian people to visit to other country. So our government has been engaging in the talks with the Mongolian authorities to increase the number of the flights or to introduce the second carrier.
Is it Air Busan or somebody else?
The main route is that between Seoul and Ulaanbaatar.
Okay, your second airline is Asiana.
At this time, that the Asiana is not decided yet, but we are more focused on the introduction of the second carrier.
Okay. You know that we Mongolians were complaining about the prices for the same 3 hours flight. With that price of Korean Air in Mongolian Airlines, you can fly almost to Canada.
Yes.
Why is that so?
Just I explained to you that the shortage of the seats. In economic terms, there's kind of the monopoly system. So that's why that our government has been engaging with the Mongolian authorities to increase the number of the flights. Then maybe with the introduction of the competitive system, we can expect that the decrease of the price and the improvement of the service.
Mongolian customers are waiting for that so long, and the people are very much tired of this monopoly prices and flights between two airlines who are fixing their prices, I think. And so I think ordinary Mongolians will welcome the decrease of cost of flights between Seoul and Ulaanbaatar. And I think the Air Busan at least gives some hope.
Maybe that I like to elaborate more that in April, President Alberto's visit to Seoul, and he had at the summit meeting with the President Park Geun-hye of Korea, and they talked about the introduction of the second carrier between Seoul and Ulaanbaatar, and based upon this the summit meeting, that we will have the working level meetings, how to address this issue.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
So hopefully it will move. And then let's talk about the visit of your president.
Yes.
We are expecting President Park's visit to Mongolia
Yes.
for ASEAN. And will it be the high-level visit between two countries, or?
Yes. We are celebrating the ASEAN meeting in Ulaanbaatar in mid-July. And on the occasion of the ASEAN meeting, President Park, the Korean president, will pay an official visit to Mongolia. And our Madam President will have the summit meeting again with President-elect Dorji. As I just mentioned, that the President-elect Dorji visit to Korea in May. So in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, that the both presidents visit to other country. This is a very exceptional situation, and this means that the Korea and Mongolia puts very significance to the bilateral relationship. So we hope that the good discussion and that the good result from the summit meeting in July.
Yep. We in particular hope that we don't see that much big Korean conglomerates coming to Mongolia. We see mostly smaller companies,
Yes.
individuals, family businesses coming to Mongolia from the very 90s. Early 90s, there were first Western companies were Korean ordinary restaurants, the businesses, and hopefully after this another high summit,
Yes.
we hope more Korean businesses coming. Do you share my opinion?
Yes, on the occasion of our president's visit, we at the embassy and at the Mongolian Foreign Ministry discussed how to improve the substantial relations, economic cooperation between Korea and Mongolia. And we will come out some concrete the result from the summit meeting. And one more thing I'd like to add is that on the occasion of our president's visit, we will have the Korea-Mongolia Business Forum. At this time, we expect that about 100 Korean companies representative will visit to Mongolia. And at this time, the Mongolian Chamber of Commerce is the agency to collect the Mongolian companies to have the business meeting.
I see. What is the level of between trade and investment between two countries today?
To be frank with you, that the trade and investment is not fully substantiated compared to the big potential between Korea and Mongolia. And that is why we like to start the free trade agreement with Mongolia. This free trade agreement will be a good chance for the business community.
And what is Mongolian side reaction?
The Mongolian the government is also interested in having the joint study for the FTA. And this joint study will be a good chance for the Mongolian government or Mongolian business communities to have the interest with Korea.
So two governments just agreed to make joint study, not to make a agreement yet.
Because the joint study is the prerequisite for the FTA, because through the joint study, both governments can analyze the more concrete benefit to be incurred from the FTA.
Okay.
And this through the joint study, the civilian capacities can be enhanced to address the FTA issues.
Another issue of people's public diplomacy is Samuel Undong,
Yes.
the new village movement of Korea that changed your rural area. They set new path, and you have a great development now. Many Mongolians are visiting already, and the movement is popular here. How do you see its future?
First of all, personally, I was so happy to meet many Mongolian people who have been engaged in Semaul movement in Mongolia. They organized their own the group or entity spontaneously after they got the good impression while they lived in Korea. As you know, that the Semaul movement was the good the occasion for the Korean people to have the strong confidence that we Korean people can become the rich. Long time ago, Korea was one of the poorest countries in the world, but with the Semaul movement, many Korean people got confidence that we can become the rich people like the advanced countries.
I visited Daegu University, that first village where President Park, a father of the President, current Park, Madam President, and I was impressed, and I understood it was the ignition of the internal engine of Koreans to believe in themselves, to work together, and a wonderful result you have reached, of course. And I think just city and industrialization will not bring that success without that movement in the rural areas. My next question is about cultural relations.
Yes.
And you travel all around Asia. In any country, you see the same Korean documentary, the soap opera, many opera, films, movies.
Yes.
What is behind? Now you are exporting not only cars and electronics, so now you are exporting movies.
No, to be frank with you, that I'm not the expert about the culture or entertainment, but as you just mentioned, that the K-pop or K-culture or the Korean drama is very popular among the many peoples in other countries, even in the South America. Last year was the 25th anniversary of the diplomatic relations between Korea and Mongolia, and in commemoration, our embassy implemented some the cultural event, including the Korean movies and Korean food festival and the K-pop performance. And I got so impressed with the response from the young Mongolian people about the K-pop performance.
And you brought some stars?
Yes, last year we were so lucky to have the popular K-pop girl the groups. And this year we just moved into the new embassy building. And at this time we are considering to have another the performance in commemoration of our new embassy building, maybe in September.
Дэлхийн шилдэгүүдийг тодруулдаг Forbes сэтгүүлийн шилдгээр Luxury King Tower apartment шалгарлаа.
Ambassador, another thing I noticed, I visited your country again by invitation of your ministry, and there was a Korea Foundation, which was kind of a structure that coordinates foreign policy with public diplomacy. Please tell us about that foundation concept.
Recently, public diplomacy is a kind of the brand name in almost every country. Public diplomacy is to attract the other people to our own culture. Through this the program, we can have the more friendly emotion, sentiment implanted among other peoples. That is why our government delegate this kind of work to the foundation, government affiliated entity, and the Korea Foundation is one of the foundations to promote the Korean culture to other peoples.
And I was surprised, and I thought it's very smart that this foundation is funded by money that is a fee that Koreans when they pay when they receive foreign passport. And I thought this line is very good connected.
Yes.
More Koreans travel abroad, more passports they receive, then the more job is done for foreign people to understand Korea. Fantastic thing.
Yes.
Ambassador, you have 2 sons.
Yes.
Both have gone through military services,
Yes,
right? Like
yes.
you did. Are they going to be what are they doing, and are they going to be a diplomat like their father?
You know that I have 2 sons, as just mentioned. That the first boy is attending the university right now after completing his military service already, and second boy is engaging in the military service in Korea. We have that the obligation, or that some moral obligation or legal obligation that every young healthy Korean man should complete the military service. And this service is sometimes very good for the young people to strengthen themselves.
Every Korean a boy must go to military service.
Yes.
For how many years?
For 2 years at
For
this
2
time.
years this time. And if it is even a student, you should go.
Sometimes during attending the school, they choose to complete the military service first.
Okay. Last question.
Yes.
When you think personally that 2 Koreas will be united?
That is a very interesting question. That the reunification is our ultimate goal for all the Korean people in South and in North. But very important is that the peaceful unification, and our government implemented that the consistent the unification policy first through the exchange and cooperation. Then the conditions can be ripe for the reunification. So at this time that we still at the hope for the increase of the exchange and cooperation. But towards this goal, we hope that North Korea should abandon their nuclear program and the missile program.
Yep, the reasons of 2 Korea's relations are now frozen is that conditions you have just mentioned, and I hope all Mongolian public hopes that
Yes.
you 2 Koreans speaking the same nation, speaking the same language,
Yes.
sharing the same culture, will find soon the common language, and all Koreans will live one day in a very good life.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your good wishes to the Korean people.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for getting me the good chance to talk to you and
you.
to the Mongolian people about the Korean government and the Korean embassy.
За хүндүлэгчтэй өнөөдөр манай Defacto нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор өмнөд Солонгосын бүгд найрамд Солонгос улсын элчин сайд ноён оролцлоо. Их баярлалаа.